Hello everyone, my name is Samuel Esong and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in the last video, we understood the architecture of Kubernetes, and today we are finally doing something practical. So we are going to install Kubernetes on our local machines. I mean our laptops. All right. So please, before we proceed, if you are yet to subscribe to my YouTube channel, please endeavor to subscribe to my channel, share my videos, like my content, and you can also share with your friends. All right. So, because this is the encouragement that I need. All right. So, let us get right to it. So, today's focus is still Kubernetes. All right. But specifically, we are going to install a development setup, not for production. All right. This setup is for learning, is for testing and experimenting. So this will be enough for what we need for our learning path. So before we start running commands, I want you to understand that when you install Kubernetes locally, you are not installing a single binary called Kubernetes. So you are basically creating a very small cluster on your machine. All right. So from today, we are going to think in terms of clusters. We're also going to think in terms of nodes. We're also going to think in terms of control plane. All right. And we're also going to think in terms of worker nodes. So even on your laptop, all right, this is what is going to happen. Now, for local development, we are going to use two popular tools. One is Minikube, and the next tool is Kind. So before using both Minikube and Kind, you must already have Docker installed. All right, you must already have Docker installed. So when we rely on Docker to run the nodes. So make sure you already have Docker installed and you should have Docker running. All right. So if Docker is not working, pause the video and fix that first. I already have a video that explained how to install Docker on your local machine. So you can watch that video, get conversant with that video before coming back to this video. So now let us start properly. What is Minikube? So a Minikube creates a local Kubernetes cluster for you. All right. So the purpose of Minikube is for simplicity. It is beginner friendly and it has an easy setup. So Minikube is very popular for learning and demos. All right. So how about Kind? Kind stands for Kubernetes in Docker. So Kind stands for Kubernetes in Docker. So Kind runs Kubernetes nodes as Docker containers. So Kind is useful for testing. You can also use Kind in your CI pipelines and multiple node simulations. So both of these two tools create Kubernetes clusters, but the difference is mainly how they run the nodes. All right. So for the purpose of learning, you can use either of these guys, but I strongly recommend that you try both because they tend to teach you different things. Now let us start with Minikube installation. So we are going to use the official documentation of Minikube. All right. So I will drop the link of this tool in the description of this video. All right. So before you can install Minikube on your local machine, you must have this award units. You must have at least 2 CPUs or more. You must have 2 gig of free memory. You must also have 20 gig of free disk space. Of course, you need to have an internet connection, and you must have a container or a virtual machine manager as Docker, Hyper-V, KVM, Kemu, HyperKit, etc., etc. So installation of Minikube is not hard, all right? So this is where you get to choose your operating system. If you are using Linux, then you can copy this command. If you are using Mac OS, you can switch here, copy this guy. If you are using Windows, all right? If you are using Windows, then you can try these commands, all right? So this is for Windows. This is for the .exe download. If you have a package manager like Winget, you can use Winget to install your Minikube on your Windows system. If you have Chocolatey, then you can use Choco install Minikube to install. All right. So to confirm if your Minikube is installed on your local machine, you can simply do Minikube version. So if I do Minikube version, it should give me the the version of the Minikube which is on my local machine. All right. Now, how do you start a Minikube cluster? So to start a Minikube cluster, you can simply say Minikube start. If I click on Minikube start, Minikube is going to start a very small cluster for me. So I had already told us that Minikube needs Docker to work, all right? So our node is simply a Docker container. So it's going to create a Docker container for us to simulate a Kubernetes cluster. So it's going to use 2 CPUs, and this is the memory it is also going to use. All right. So you can check through these guys. All right. You can check through the documentation. If you want to stop your cluster, all right, then you can simply say Minikube stop. If you want to pause your cluster, you can say Minikube pause. If you want to unpause your cluster, then you can use this command. If you want to delete your cluster, you can simply say Minikube delete -all if you have more than one Minikube cluster running on your local machine. So, well, our cluster is still creating, and I think in few seconds our cluster should be ready. So now, okay, please let us give it a few minutes for our cluster to be properly ready. Okay, while we are waiting for our cluster to be ready, let us also look at kind installation. So the installation of kind is very similar. Again, I am going to use the kind documentation. So this is the official kind documentation. I am going to drop the link of this documentation in the description of this video. All right. So if you scroll down, then if you are using Linux, you can simply copy this command and run it on your Linux machine. If you are using Mac, now the same thing on Windows. You can copy this guy and install kind on your local machine. All right. So if you don't want to go through the stress of these guys, if you have let's say on Windows you have Chocolatey install, all right, then you can use choco install kind, all right. Then if you're on Mac, you can simply do brew install kind. So let us see how okay, let us also confirm for our Minikube, our cluster is running, all right. So I can simply do Minikube status. All right. So this is going to tell me the status of my cluster. So it is host is running, kubelet is running, API server is running, and kube config is running. All right. Then our control plane is also running. All right. So to delete my Minikube cluster, I can simply do Minikube Minikube delete cluster. Okay. Let us check back in our, all right, Minikube delete. So Minikube delete, all right. So this is going to delete our current Minikube cluster. So if you have more than one cluster, then the all argument is going to delete all the clusters running, all the Minikube cluster running on your host machine. So if I do Minikube status again, so Minikube not found. To start a cluster, simply run Minikube start. So this is very easy to start and to stop a cluster. So let us look at what kind has for us. To confirm if your kind is installed, all right, so we can simply do kind version. All right, so this is going to output the version of our kind cluster. So to create a cluster with kind, I can simply say kind create cluster. So this is going to prepare the nodes for us. Note that with kind, it can also simulate several worker nodes, and it can also simulate several control planes. So let us take a brief look at the kind documentation. All right. Now, if you use kind create cluster without the hyphen name flag, all right, it's going to give you the default name, and the default name will be kind. Okay, so if you add if you want to give it your own custom name, then you should add the hyphen name flag. All right, so you can use the kind get clusters to list your clusters. To delete a cluster, you simply do kind delete cluster. All right, and again, if the hyphen name is not specified, kind will use the default cluster context name and delete that cluster. So that means if you pass the hyphen name flag when creating a cluster, you also need to pass the name of that cluster when you are deleting that cluster. All right. So remember that you can also simulate your you can also simulate some numbers of worker nodes and some numbers of the control plane with your kind. All right, so this is the advanced kind configuration. So what you do is to simply create a YAML file. All right, you simply create a YAML file, and this is how the YAML file looks like. Then you create the kind cluster with this configuration. All right, so our kind cluster is ready. All right, so our kind cluster is ready. If I say kind get cluster, I should see just one kind cluster running because I did not specify the name. All right, it's going to assume the default kind name. So to delete cluster, I'll simply do kind delete cluster. So kind delete cluster is going to simply delete the cluster name kind. All right, so to create a multi-node cluster, now you may be interested to simulate a multi-node cluster. So for this, a simple configuration for this can be achieved with the following config contents. All right, so let us assume that I am creating a 2-worker node and with just one control plane. So I'm going to copy this. All right, so I'll simply name this nano kind, or I'll give it worker node or kind worker nodes dot YAML. All right, so I'll go ahead to paste this simple configuration. All right, so now to create a kind cluster with our custom configuration file, so I'll simply do kind create cluster -config, then the name of our config file, which is kind worker nodes.yaml. So we'll give it some time, and our kind cluster with 2 worker nodes and 1 control plane node will be created. So you can also simulate multi-control planes with multi-worker nodes. So this configuration is for 3 control plane and 3 worker nodes. So again, understand that with Minikube, you usually think of one main node. But with kind, you can think of nodes as Docker containers. All right. So you can provision your Kubernetes cluster with any of these tools and just play around with it. So again, by default, kind creates a single cluster node. All right, but then in real life, Kubernetes cluster have 1 or more control planes and sometimes multiple worker nodes. All right, so you can also simulate that with the example I have shown you. So Minikube and kind are not competitors, so they solve slightly different problems. All right, so now you use Minikube when you want a very smooth learning experience. All right, so Minikube has some built-in add-ons and maybe you want simplicity. And when you're using kind, maybe you want to test multi-node, all right, and you want maybe a CI style environment and you want realistic cluster topology. All right, so in the next video we are going to see what the command line tool we use to interact with Kubernetes. All right. So make sure you have Minikube install. Make sure you have kind install. Go through the Minikube and kind documentation, and also make sure you have successfully created at least one cluster. All right, so this is going to prepare you for the next video in this Kubernetes series. So well done. Please don't fail to subscribe and share this video. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.